So to start us off, I am going to pass it off to Code Huddle. And I just want to say that this team has done an amazing job building something, and they'll tell you about it, but building something that we're going to keep using here at Fullstack, which is awesome. I love it when that happens. Code Huddle, you ready?
Yes, we are. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for being here with us today. My name is Evan, and with me are my good friends Amy, Amram, Andrew, and Sarabi. And together we are Team Code Huddle. We're here today to present to you an awesome web application that we built that helps potential web development candidates perform their technical whiteboarding interviews remotely. Code Huddle introduces a fully collaborative, real-time environment for both interviewer and candidate, complete with whiteboard and customizable text editor, and serves as the premier solution for remote technical interviews. So, if you will, imagine a scenario where we have a potential employer, let's call them Hobbs, and Hobbs wishes to perform a phone screen with a candidate, Calvin, who's located in a different city and thus is to be interviewed remotely. Hobbs wants to see if Calvin can implement a breadth-first search algorithm on a binary tree, which sounds like the perfect kind of problem that you could use the whiteboard on Code Huddle for. So now I'd like to hand it over to Sarabi to take a closer look at some of the things you can do in the interview room. Sarabi, take it away.
Thank you, Evan. So as we can see on the day of interview, Hobbs and Calvin are in the same interview room. Hobbs can see problem set, whereas Calvin cannot because he is a candidate. And now they start their interview by setting text editor options. They turn the linting off, they turn on gutter, they turn on text size, and they change the text editor theme. And it seems now Hobbs has explained problem to Calvin, and Calvin starts drawing tree on the whiteboard. And he draws traversal through the tree, selecting a new color from the color palette. And we can see that the same drawing is being drawn on Hobbs' screen as well. Now they move on to the text editor where Calvin writes pseudocode and then he writes the actual code. But it seems Hobbs finds a mistake in Calvin's code and he highlights it by selecting that portion of the code. And this was a feature request from our daily users of Code Huddle, who are our classmates in our remote cohort. And this is how you could use whiteboard and text editor in our Code Huddle. And we have implemented whiteboard by using JavaScript library called React Konva. We use this library because elements like canvas and line, they can be implemented as actual React components where we can pass props to them. And the drawing that you see on whiteboard are actually a lot of Konva lines. And this is the actual implementation of React Konva in our application. For more features on Code Huddle, over to Amy.
Thanks, Sarabi. Here we see Hobbs' interviewer dashboard containing his list of upcoming interviews. Let's take a look at the interview details as an existing interview is edited. Among other items, Hobbs can add technical interview problems from his organization's stored problems. And that's the interview planning screen. In Code Huddle, we implemented our state with Redux store, where the data must remain immutable. A complex store containing arrays and nested objects requires a deep copy, which can be difficult to code and maintain correctly. Further, store complexity tends to grow as the application grows. For example, here's a small section of our Redux store. As you can see, it has multiple arrays and nested objects. The solution we found is to use immutable.js for the Redux store. As you can see from the code snippets here, immutable simplifies the code, making it more readable and thus easier to maintain. Additionally, immutable.js brings the advantage of more performant code. Immutable achieves this through structural sharing, more specifically hashed array map trees. Copies are made only when data is actually mutated, and retrieval can be even faster than vanilla.js. Further, immutability means read-only data, which means the opportunity for concurrency without locking. And now on to Andrew, who's going to talk about application data flow.
Since Code Huddle is a real-time collaborative application, we had the task of keeping all the clients synced up with the latest interview data. To achieve this, we used Redux on the front end, Redux on the back end, and WebSockets via Socket.io to communicate among the clients. Here's a diagram of a typical data flow for a client action. On the top left, we have a client. And for example, let's pretend Calvin types q.push into the text editor. Since we want this action to be synced up, we tag it as remote is equal to true. Then the action is dispatched to its own local Redux store like normal. But we also have a sockets middleware for the Redux store that detects we want to send it to all of the other clients and sends the action to the back end. This is accomplished through a pub-sub relationship with sockets between the client and the server. The server dispatches the action locally to its own local store, and then broadcasts the action to all of the other clients. The socket's middleware on all the other clients receives the action and dispatches it to their own local stores. And once all the stores are updated, the subscribing components will update and render on the application. Now off to Amram to talk about the technologies that we used.
Thank you, Andrew. So for our application, we used React, Redux, and Material UI on the front end. We used Node on the back end with an Express server and SQLize as our ORM. We also have testing for all our routes using Chai and Mocha. On the left side over here, you see a diagram which shows all the tables in our Postgres database. Our backend is written using the RESTful architectural pattern. And on the right side, you have all the endpoints in our API. And each one of those corresponds to a table in our database. In conclusion, our cohort has been using Code Huddle for the past week to solve remote programming challenges. And we've received lots of positive feedback how it really helps to simulate a whiteboarding environment. The Fullstack staff has notified us that they will be using our application in the next remote cohort. So we really hope you'll check out our application. It's available live on Heroku, and thanks for listening.
All right, thank you very much, Code Huddle. And thanks not only for the awesome presentation, but also I'll thank you on behalf of the remote juniors that are rising now and are going to be using your tool during senior phase and the remote full stack community as it grows.
So Omri, I've done a lot of technical interviews, both as interviewer and interviewee, and we always have a lot of technical problems with the things that we're using. And I've never seen, although I'd love to, the power move of, oh, your interviewing system's not working, why don't we load mine up? So I hope to see that from some of the full stack remoters.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And by the way, if anybody out there is curious about using Redux and Socket.io together, you should totally check out their code base. They've got something awesome going on with that Socket middleware that Andrew was describing in the middle. Cool. So that's Code Huddle.